Okay, we're going to discuss dotted rhythms in this lesson. We've already seen the dot added to a half note. A half note by itself is worth 2 beats. It's a duration that lasts for 2 beats. If we add a dot to the half, it makes it worth 3 beats. That dot is adding 50% of the original value, right? The half note's worth 2. We add the dot to it, it makes it worth 3. Half of 2 is 1, 2 plus 1 is 3. That's how it works. The complicated thing is that a dot can be added to any rhythm, so sometimes these values are portions of beats. And that's what occurs with the dotted quarter note. And then with faster rhythms, it even becomes more complex. The tricky thing about counting the dots is that you end up having to play between the beats, right? And if we look at the example 18, and this example uses the dotted quarter note rhythm. This is where we have a quarter note plus half of the value of a quarter, which is an eighth. So a dotted quarter is worth a beat and a half. And this is a little tricky. Now there's 2 different ways to write this rhythm, either using a tie or using a dot. So if you look at the second measure of example 18, you'll see that the first time that rhythm is written using ties, but in the third measure, it's the same exact sound, but it uses the dot after the quarter note rather than the tie. They both will sound exactly the same. So here is the entire example. I will play it and count so that you can see where these notes fall. And notice in this case, because we're dealing with the fastest note of an eighth note, I will keep a running count of the 1 and 2 ands, etc. So here is this example 18a. Follow along as you hear the notes go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1, 2, 3, 4. So those are tricky. It takes a little practice. Now, when you hear these in a familiar tune, they're a little bit easier to execute. The first piece that we're going to play that uses the dotted rhythm is the famous English melody, Greensleeves. And this one starts with a pickup, or an anacrusis, but uses a lot of dotted rhythms. And since it's a fairly familiar tune, it should be not as complicated for you to count. So here is Greensleeves, played fairly slow, and remember we start on a pickup. So I'm going to give us a count in of 1, 2, and then I will begin on count 3. 1, 2. The next piece, Cockles and Mussels, is an Irish folk tune that also uses a dotted rhythm. It's a slightly different presentation of it. And again, this one's a little tricky because we have to play a rhythm that's a beat and a half long. Okay, so we're going to start. I'm not going to go too fast with this one. We also start on the third beat. We have another anacrusis. And this is on count 3. So here's the pickup. 1, 2.